Welcome to Lawyers Who Learn, where we explore how attorneys' engagement and lifelong learning fuels their growth. Join us to uncover these journeys and gain insights for your legal career.
Shahed, thanks for having you on. We've known each other for a while now, and I was really excited when you said you wanted to join Lawyers Who Learn. And I think you're really the perfect candidate to be on this episode. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I was excited when I saw your email too. So awesome. Happy we got this on the calendar.
So the way these episodes work is we have a theme, and the theme generally is derived around something that you learn through. And what I think is really unique about you, and sort of say who you are as we go through the episode, is you have, and I don't actually have what the 3 words, usually it's gonna be 3 words or something to that degree. And I think that will develop as we go, but you had a career before you started your own firm. And what's so interesting about the career that you had, which you can kind of get into more details, I think you were in sales and a software as a service, a SaaS business. And right. You did that for a decade. And what was so interesting about your career, you went to New York Law School, I'm an alumni there too, and you went there at night. And then when you became an attorney, you didn't go to estate planning, you didn't go to real estate, you didn't do something else. You became an attorney specifically geared towards companies that are SaaS businesses. So I want to talk about how you transitioned and what you had to learn through your career and then through law school to today. You've actually developed your own course. You're smartly a Lawline customer, which I want to get into how we connected. So yeah, let's start a little bit about the beginning of your career. And I'll say one more thing as a starting point.
Sure.
What I like to have in my head during these episodes is one person. I want you to think of one person who is like you, either in a career, maybe thinking about law school, in law school, or just started their own firm or somewhere in between, and who can take something that you're sharing and actually use it or take action from it so they can learn like you have to grow. Because sometimes when we think about the thousands of people who might be listening to this someday, it's more generic. When you think about one person who can actually get inspired or empowered by what you're saying, you can direct it towards them. So, and I'll keep kind of moving back to that as we talk. Yeah. So with that, I'll stop talking, and I'm like, give us a sense about sort of the beginning of your career and what you learned about SaaS that made you really spend the rest of, at least a decade before you went to law into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, thanks for the breakdown. So, I graduated in 2008. So, that will give you an idea of where everything was at that time. And I know I'm probably not the only person that's listening to this or have spoken to you that graduated around that time from college, from undergraduate.
What happened in 2008? Just kidding. But as a reminder, that was when the big market crash and everything went downhill.
All right, that's right. It was a complete mess. Jobs were rare. So, the first job that I got was selling newspaper ads. I literally went door to door in Astoria, Queens, selling newspaper ads for the Queens Tribune, which is a local newspaper in Queens, New York. And so it started there, and that's what got me into sales in the first place, right? Saw the benefits, the upside of sales.
And to be clear, 2008 was college.
That's 2008 is when I graduated college.
Okay, just making sure. Again, for me, I graduated. Yeah, so okay, 2008 was college. So you got into newspaper sales. Okay.
Newspaper ads, and then I only lasted like 4 months there, and then I joined an advertising ad tech agency. So that's what introduced me onto the tech side, and then also a little bit on the marketing and advertising side, because that's what they sold. They sold advertising technology, and from there, I was there for almost 4 years, and then I joined an actual tech startup outside of just ad tech. It was a tech startup. It was venture funded, and all of that is just a learning experience into what goes into sales. So like understanding the sales aspect of a business. To this day, I keep telling people, if anybody talks to me about my career path and what it's like to run a law firm or a law practice, the biggest catalyst in my background is my sales background, because you should be able to talk to people in order to get business, in order to understand that. So,
Can we pause there for a second? Because similar to you, when I graduated college in 99, so it was actually it was before the market crashed, and I actually got into online
.com bubble,
sales as well. I was selling for 24/7 media, which eventually was bought by DoubleClick, and we were selling banner ads and search ads and other things like that. And I did 3 different jobs as well. And I agree with you fundamentally, like the sales and the fear of rejection, which, you know, they say rejection is a myth because you're no different than you were before.
That's right.
Has helped me through our career. Is there anything, any sort of any bullet points or takeaways of like what sales taught you and that you've taken, that you sort of you used in your firm or today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, number one is like, rejection it doesn't mean anything. You just, you keep it moving. But number two there is a way to sell where you don't have to be that pushy salesperson. You don't have to be, get on a PowerPoint presentation online, go through the slide deck and ask for the sale afterwards. It doesn't have to be like that. So for me, the takeaway was really just, being in sales for so long, it was just like kind of honing in on the craft of what exactly people want in a sales experience, right? And what that is for me, and this is actually very much related to Lawline and very much related to teaching and learning, is that if you teach somebody something that they don't know about before, without even talking about the product, but just teach them something that, for example's sake, if a client comes to me now as a law practice practitioner or a prospective client and has concerns about data privacy, I have no problem telling them about what you need to understand from a data privacy standpoint. I won't ask like, hey, you should be my client now. Obviously, it'll just be like, well, these are the things you need to worry about. And if you have any further questions, please let me know. So, the takeaway for me is figuring out what the takeaway was figuring out what exactly people want from a sales experience. And honestly, most of it is across the board. You should be, succinct and straight to the point. You should try to teach people something. You should never be pushy about it. If you're pushy about it, you're more likely to push somebody away.
All right. So now you're in sales for 5 years. How do you transition? Well, so what I think you was a decade. Were you always in sales before for law, or did you transition to a different role before you went to law school?
No, even when I started law school in 2013, New York Law School's evening division. I started in the fall of 2013, and I went through the summers. So I didn't want to go the whole 4 years. So part-time law school is 4 years. But if you do all the summers, it's 3.5. I stayed in sales. I stayed in software sales. I went to different companies. So I was at a company called Stack Overflow around when I started law school. Stack Overflow is a really huge website that's very popular with software developers. So that's what got me into tech sales, specifically technology intensive sales. So you need to understand the developer. You need to understand people in the development community in order to sell that product. And then from there, I went to sales for a platform as a service, which is an extremely technical product. So that gave me a little bit more of the actual technical engineering background. In fact, part of my onboarding process for my sales position at Aptable was the platform as a service that I worked for, was actually deploying code using through GitHub on a Ruby on Rails onto their platform as a service.
So what was the moment, or what did you learn in that process where you're like, oh, I want to move from selling software to now being a lawyer, helping clients? Or maybe you didn't have maybe when you were going to law school, it wasn't about SaaS. Where was that aha moment? I'm super interested in that.
Yeah, initially, honestly, I wanted to just apply my legal education into a business position. I didn't
why legal education in the first place from sales?
Yeah, it's something I actually wanted to do since I was a child. I remember my grandfather was actually an attorney in Bangladesh. And so it's always been in my mind. I went to college for political science, and then I just kind of fell off, taking the LSAT and trying to get into law school. By the end of college, I was just kind of disenfranchised by it. I wasn't really interested anymore. And so it was something that I always wanted to do. And then I eventually decided it was like this one night that I decided that I need to do more with my life. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to take the LSAT and see where it goes from there.
Well, just out of curiosity, was there a spark that hit the flame, or whatever you want to call it, that night, a low moment?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It was like, I was living in my parents' basement in in Long Island, and it was just like, yeah, I wasn't making as much money. I didn't really have a full direction as to where my career is going to go. Like, yeah, I can go to sales leadership, but I don't know if that's what I wanted to do. And then I thought, like, okay, once upon a time, I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to go to law school. Why not bring that back? So I started looking into signing up for the LSAT, and I bought a book that I picked up the next day, like an LSAT practice test book. And really it was just a matter of, it sounds cheesy, but it's kind of like the immigrant story, right? Like my parents didn't come to this country for me to not thrive as hard as I possibly can and do as much as I possibly can, to bring success to myself, or a career that I can be proud of.
And again, just in terms of how our paths are similar, and like I said, there's and maybe this is a program, or at least this part of the program, this podcast is geared towards that person who has been in a career for 10 years and doesn't feel empowered or inspired. And so I was in sales a little less than you, about 6 years. And it was actually, it was 2.5 years. That wasn't 6 years. It was 2.5 years. 9/11 happened. I ended up quitting my job within a couple months. I was like, what am I doing here? I ended up becoming a real estate broker and selling real estate. I did that really well. And I got really empowered and inspired by taking the practice, the exam to get your license.
Right.
And similar to you, my dad always wanted me to be a lawyer because he came from nothing and became a personal injury attorney and used that to build his career. And he loved what he did. And so I think after I became a real estate broker, I ended up going back to sales and then at some point I'm just like, what am I doing? And I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I yet to start a business. So I said, you know what? Well, maybe a good, a commendable career is the wrong word I'm thinking of, but not the right one. I can be a lawyer and I can have an impact for the next 20 years. Of course, going to law school ended up being an entrepreneur, but that's maybe not for this podcast. Okay.
Well, you put two and two together, right? And that's really all it is. You can still figure it out over the course of time, right?
Exactly. So just cost more. Okay.
That's right.
So you had the passion, or finally that moment, the low moment, right? So but you still needed to work. So you went to New York Law School has a really strong night program.
Absolutely.
That's a 4-year program, right?
4-year program. That's right.
So tell us what you learned going to night school as a full-time career.
Oh, time management more than anything else, right? So, I was in a relationship with my now wife, and it just so worked out. We just got into the relationship before I started law school, and it just so worked out that it was long distance. So what that meant was I didn't have to spend every evening working, going on dates or anything like that, because it was a long distance relationship. So we had set time every 2 weeks. We would see each other every 2 to 3 weeks. We'd see each other. So that worked out. And really what it taught me was that time management is such a major thing. Like there's so many hours in the day. So
I'm with you. I got time management. What else?
Yeah, in a sales position, it's kind of 24/7. So I was still working in class. I was in the back of the class in New York Law School in my contracts class, and I'm like, all right, I'm sending out sales emails. So time management, number one, is the biggest thing that it taught me. Number two,
go ahead. Sorry. Nope.
I was going to say, number two is really just an understanding of what you're capable of, right?
I love that.
Yeah, it's and a lot of people will think that you're nuts, like you're doing a full-time job. And mind you, the evening division was all people just like me. They're all working full-time jobs. Prestigious jobs, high jobs, like, things that are demanding, and they're going to law school at night. Some of them were even sponsored by their employers to go. So it was being understanding of what you're capable of was a big thing. And number three, I learned that you are also very much a product of what you're surrounded by, which kind of is props to my classmates, right? I was surrounded by entrepreneurs growing up. My father's an entrepreneur. My brother's an entrepreneur. I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur at some point. That resonated with me. I ended up starting a law firm, right? So on top of that, with my classmates, they were all extremely capable people. We all figured out how to make it happen. And if you're an attorney listening out there to this podcast, you'll notice a distinct difference between the evening division law students and the daytime law students. We don't compete with each other. There was no competition. There was very much like, we're all in this together right now. So let's try to do the best we can. And,
Yeah.
let's work together kind of. So those are the three things. Time management is really what you're capable of and the importance of what's surrounding you.
Well, I don't know if you've given that before, but if not, you came up with it really, really good on the spot. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
When did you, okay, so when did you, so you go through 4 years of law school, you're working the whole time, you're supporting yourself. Like you said, many people do that. I went to day school. I just could focus on law.
Sure.
Which actually, to your point, gave me the freedom and more, and I did internships every year. At my second year, towards the summer of the third year, I started an online TV show and podcast. Well,
that's cool.
Podcast, yeah, but it was on public access where I was interviewing entrepreneurs on how to start their business, and that's where the connection came. Where my dad had started Lawline in '99, but had stopped it essentially 2 years later when the .com crashed. What if I took these interviews with entrepreneurs and started interviewing lawyers instead of entrepreneurs and turned these interviews into courses? And Lawline, which had been around since '99 and had 10 courses on it, what if I start building that product up, rebuilding the site and moving from there? And so like, I feel grateful that I had that more freedom than you. You didn't. You had to work. You had to do school, and then, and so I just want to commend you for all that. So
thank you.
So graduation comes around. Did you go right into your own practice? Did you work for somebody else? Like what was that?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, I didn't. I didn't work for. I mean, I stayed with my tech sales job and was. Anybody that's in tech sales, you could, if you're good at it and it's a good opportunity, it could be very,
It's a commission only job. Is that why?
No, it was base plus commission.
So you had to work a certain amount of hours then.
Yeah, it was base plus commission. And so I stayed with that career. And then, I kind of made up a master plan in my mind, what am I going to do next with this law degree? I took the bar, I passed the bar in DC. What am I going to do with this law degree next? And so, sometime in 2018, so I graduated in 2017, took the July 2017 bar, passed it. And mid 2018, I decided, and I spoke to my CEO at that time as well, just so there was no, concerns. I'm going to start my own law practice, and it's going to be focused on tech. So I registered the PLLC. I started with the insurance, and we came to an understanding that I'll only do, work that has nothing to do with my current day job or, pro bono work. And so
where did that idea come from? Did it come overnight? Was it a master plan before you went to law school? Was it out of desperation? Was it because it's a pain point? But I'm sure it didn't just come to you. I'm sure it was more pain and suffering before you got to that, which sounds so obvious now. But what did you have to learn and go through to get to that point?
Yeah, it wasn't really pain and suffering, honestly. It was mostly, I could have continued my career in sales. I could have, looked into sales leadership and worked my way through that, or started, looking for a job at a bigger company. But really, it came down to I am at that point where I want to work for myself. I want to be that entrepreneur. And the most logical thing for me to do, and I went full logic on this, was number one, start a law firm because I have a law degree. Number two, what I do with the law firm is I will do exactly what I do now, except on the legal side, because now I have first-hand experience of the importance of legal in a tech sales transaction, and where it can be a long, arduous, painful process trying to close a big deal with an enterprise company because legal's in the way, or it's they're taking their time. And so it was kind of just a logical decision to start a law firm and specifically focus on technology related legal services. The complication came after that, where it's like, okay, what specifically with technology? Is it going to be just contracts? Is it just going to be intellectual property? Is it going to be product counsel? How do I approach it? So that's really where the idea came from. And I wanted to work for myself, and I have this plethora of experience behind me, and I have this law degree. And so this is what I'm going to do.
All right.
Yeah.
No, we're about to finish something.
Well, I was going to say, I considered joining a firm and, doing that, but it just did that. The most important thing for me was that, like, I want that flexibility. And it also happened to coincide with my son being born, right? So Maybe you can call that a pain point, but I wanted to show my children, now I have two, but I wanted to show my children that you can build something from the ground up, and it's completely possible. And so I wanted that as well.
Okay. So this how many years after law school is this, or this right away?
This was 2 years after though. So it was 1 year after law school was the idea, and then 2 years after law school. So
just so I understand, you went to night school.
Yeah.
Took a lot of time, a lot of money, whether debt or paid for. Either way, there's investment.
Yes.
So now you're 2 years plus. Maybe you looked for a job and you didn't. Like that's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
So you do this. Now you decide, okay, this is the area that I'm in, but you don't learn in law school these things, and you're not in the legal side in your business. So how did you learn the legal side of a SaaS business enough that you felt you could represent clients?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So a few different ways. I took on mentors. I took on mentors that are existing attorneys that specifically work for tech companies, specifically work with contracts, and I started just speaking with them and understanding and working in conjunction with them on things. So that's number one. Number two, I took a bunch of CLE courses thanks to Lawline, right? I signed up for Lawline as soon as I launched my PLLC. That was one of the first things that I did. And I started taking courses on Lawline and going through CLEs. And actually, I found a bunch of my mentors through Lawline. I just reached out to the people that were doing the courses and said, hey, I want to have a conversation. This is what I'm interested in doing. And they were all willing to have conversations. They were all willing to help me through the process. And I absorbed as much information as I could from there. So
wait a second here. You're telling me you can take continuing legal education courses and not even just worry. It's not about the credit. It's actually about learning and helping you in your practice. What are you talking? Tell me more.
Plot twist: DC doesn't have credit requirements. I did this to learn, right? So, Washington DC, you don't have CLE course requirements. You don't have credit requirements. It wasn't something that I was forced to do. It was very much like, this makes logical sense. Like, let me start learning about this stuff in the best way I can from people that do this on a regular basis, and then reach out to them because their contact information is right there. Why not reach out to them? And if they respond, that's great. Let's start a deeper relationship, deeper conversation. So, that's the way that I learned. It was very much learned through communication, learned through doing, learned through these courses. And I've had a Westlaw subscription for a long time. They have excellent practice notes. So all of that and it never ends, right? I still take CLE courses for the sake of learning. I still read the practice notes for the sake of learning. And I think that's important if you're going to be really good at what you do.
I want to hone in, so I can't let this go, because this is really, again, maybe you call this a self-serving podcast, but I think it's really important because too often, and I've been doing this for 17 years now, when you talk to people, and many times rightfully so, CLE has a bad rap. And especially if you buy courses you don't want, or it's a bundle, or the presenter is just reading from the text, or it's just not well done or well produced, or you're not even sure what you want to learn. And so, and this is like the story of my career here, is like, how do I empower and inspire people through what is formal learning, right? It's a little bit tougher because at the end of the day, it's a talking head. Yes, now there's transcripts, now there's slide, now there's actually an AI tool where you can actually ask questions and do all that stuff. But it's still not the informal learning. And what I think is so fascinating about what you did, and I want to dive into it a little more, you took formal learning. And I think this, because we've spoken before, and I think you were the one who said this to me, correct me if I'm wrong. You were binge watching categories or practice areas of online courses to learn, correct?
Yeah. Yep. I was. I
might circle back to that, but you were binge watching, but you took it a step further to informal learning, where you reached out to some of the faculty who taught the courses. I don't know if you can off the top of your head, can you think of a course or a faculty and sort of like, what was the course? Why you wanted to speak to them, and what kind of relationship formed after? Like, what did you actually say to them? The relation that formed, and take us through that, because that is something where I'm thinking about that one person,
Yeah.
a Lawline customer today who is watching a course and is like, I don't want to bother this person. They're busy.
Yeah.
To take us through that.
Yeah. If it's one thing I learned, it's, nobody's too busy, especially if you're trying to do something. It's you can reach out to them. If they respond, that's great. What's the worst that can happen? Maybe that's my sales career because of the rejection and like, cold emails never go answered or whatnot. But it's just, if you're thinking about reaching out to somebody and you have their information and it's something substantive, like it's not just picking their brain. It's like, hey, this is something that I want to know. You should do it. So two specific, and I don't remember the name of the courses, but there was two specific
What was the
people.
topics? What was the topic?
So the first was trademarks. And the name of the attorney and the faculty member, her name is Stacy Calamaris. She had her own firm at that time. So I like that. And she was just very well spoken. And so I reached out to her to discuss trademarks. And so that was one of the first people that I reached out to, and she was great at responding. We had a continuous conversation. She was open to have discussions if I ever had questions about trademarks for any of my client work. She was happy to help with office actions if they ever came my way, so on and so forth. That was great. Also, another one that I can think of off the top of my head, and once again, there were many. These are just two that I specifically remember. Todd Culkin. He also had his own firm. Todd. We actually worked together on one of my clients as well. And Todd was just it was a course on corporate law. I think it might have been specifically for nonprofits because I just wanted to learn about nonprofits at that time. I had somebody that asked me questions about it. And so I just reached out to Todd and I see you have your own firm. I really like the way that you taught this course. I'd love to have a conversation, and went from there. So those are two people that I remember.
I'm going to give you a shout out right now because not only do you reach out to faculty members, you reach out to me. I don't know. I post a lot almost daily on LinkedIn. I don't remember the post, but you reached out to me, you commented and maybe like shared what you did. And then you shared sort of your story and we communicated back and forth. And then we ended up hiring you because we were so impressed with sort of your knowledge and your focus. And when we launched our AI tool, our AI learning assistants, we used you to help us go through that as well as some other SaaS things that we have. And so, reaching out always works. And if somebody's too busy, just you got to either move on or continue that contact. So I love the formal learning. I love the informal. Just while we're on the topic, is there any other ways that you've really found is a hack to learning? Because we were talking about how you learned these topics so we felt comfortable that you were able to learn by representing your the clients in these matters in SaaS or other intellectual property matters.
Well, I mean, I had I had a built-in hack because I was really on the other side, and then some of what I did was wasn't practicing law, it wasn't legal per se, but it was understanding what the importance of a terms of service in terms of privacy policies and sales agreements and whatnot are. But really, the biggest hack was just being able to reach out to people who are willing to talk to you about stuff, and then of course these practice notes. Like if you have a practical law subscription for Westlaw or like the Lexis equivalent, they release excellent practice notes that are well drafted. Read them. They have excellent information.
When you say, just so somebody who's first time they're hearing practice notes, what does that mean?
Yeah, so practice notes is just an extensive document on a particular subject, right? So these tools, Westlaw, LexisNexis, I think Casetext might have it too. Is if you just search software as a service agreement on their solution, they'll have a practice note that was drafted by a law firm or an attorney that they work with that goes into in-depth details about the importance of a software as a service agreement, what needs to go in there, and so on and so forth. So they not only do that for things like software as a service agreement, but they'll also release them for updates to the California Consumer Privacy Act. Updates to US-based data privacy laws and regulations. And I'll send you an email like, hey, we have a new practice. Got it. So
love it.
Just learning from there is a huge hack, and it's very important.
I have two more questions for you. Maybe something else will pop up, and then I'm going to throw it to you to see if you have any questions for me.
Sure.
My first question is and my hope is somebody will listen to this podcast and be like, damn, I wish they spoke for 4 hours. And hopefully we can do that more, but I'm not there yet where I can do a long form 4-hour podcast.
Sure.
But I would love to, because I know I could talk to you for that long. you also did something different recently. I don't know how recently it was, but you built your own course.
Yeah.
For that, I think, and if I understand it correctly, it's not geared towards attorneys. It's geared
Right.
towards other SaaS companies. So tell us about that course. And I always say teaching is one of the best forms of learning. Did
For
that
sure.
did that hold true here? And tell us a little bit about what you had to learn building this course and how that's going.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks for the shout out for the course. So I have another company. I have another business called IndieGC, and the purpose of IndieGC is just courses for people to learn from a legal practice. So I launched this course called Legal 101 for SaaS sales teams, and really it's exactly my story. Right? It's you're a salesperson. You want to push the deal through, and you keep seeing that legal has these concerns from what you're promising. So I built this course guided towards two people, two specific personalities. Number one, or careers. One is the SaaS salesperson or the SaaS sales leader that's going through this process of trying to sell this to an enterprise company and whatnot, or sell their product. And number two, for an in-house legal team member that doesn't necessarily have a full grasp of the importance of what goes into like a SaaS sales agreement or a SaaS sales package when selling to an enterprise company. So I made this course.
How hard was it to make?
So it was making slideshows and coordinating my thoughts and my knowledge into 11 slide decks, and then recording it on Zoom. The hardest part was actually doing it, because I had it was bringing everything into a digestible kind of slide deck that I can speak out loud. It's
well, to me that is the beauty of putting yourself out there and presenting, right? Because it is the art and the pain and the suffering, and now AI makes it a little bit easier, or a lot easier, right, to take your thoughts and make them easily understood.
100%.
And by doing that, you better learn it, because you have to like organize it more in your head. Did you find that happen for you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Because, and that's the biggest thing I was going to say. The biggest thing is that it forces you to organize your thoughts on a particular subject. And when you organize your thoughts on a particular subject, it just makes it helps you discover things that maybe you did not see before. It helps you work. It helps you better focus and better kind of streamline this particular subject matter. So just making this course, it helped me kind of work with my clients better when it comes to the entire sales process, and help me with the idea of like, hey, let's build something along the lines of a playbook for all of my clients, because they should have that in place.
Has it met your expectations? What did you have goals for it? Or has it more turned into, well, it's hard to sell, but it's a great value add to give to my clients when they come on board with me? Or did it lead to other ideas that you weren't even thinking about when you created it that you're now doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fine. It's been okay. I just honestly wanted to help salespeople, because once again, I was in their shoes, and I've seen deals fall apart when it got to a certain stage. And it was very much because of my understanding, or a team member's understanding or misunderstanding of the legal process around it. So, it has done what it needed to do. And I think it's like 2 years old at this point. So I probably need to update it. But I have had people reach out to me, and true story, I've had people reach out to me and said, hey, I took your course and I got an in-house counsel job because of what your course taught me. I have had multiple people come to me and say,
get those testimonials on your site.
Yeah, right.
How many? You said it's a separate company. Do you have other courses too, or this is the only one so far?
I'm actually, interestingly, I'm working on another course right now called How to Start Your Own Law Practice. And it's going to be a lot of what we discussed on this call. It's just a little bit more details.
Have you watched we have lots of tracks on Lawline about that.
Yeah.
So
I have. It's it's and it's important. And I think this is just going to be a super high level, like $10 course. Yeah. But there's so much to think about when it comes to ethics and insurance and so on and so forth. So.
And for me, because again, I think there's a lot of similarities to you, is for me, teaching a course is like art. I'm not that, I mean, I wish I could be a better painter. I'm a decent drawer, but the art of communicating and then having it help people, like, yes, I want it to soar. I want Lawline to, but it's the art of the impact.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. The art of the impact that Lawline has through these courses, like I get bumps on my skin when you're talking about what Lawline has done and helped you.
Oh yeah.
And I think you feel the same way when you're talking about those two people who got jobs.
Yeah.
And that's like, I wonder, like, I can just go on so many tangents, and I'm not going to go there because I want to ask two more questions and then kind of keep this closes. One is what do we do? What are you doing for your firm with AI? It's SaaS was hot, and then all of a sudden, by the way, as sure as you know, SaaS is no longer hot. When you think of, Salesforce is a great example where it's not there, and it used to be a beautiful word. Now people are it's not a beautiful word. Do you see yourself needing? How are you positioning yourself, and how should other firms position themselves for AI? What do you think you need to learn? By the way, just so you know, I don't know how deep you are into it. We have 75 courses on AI. We have 5 learning paths dedicated to just AI. And we're actually talking about now doing a full AI summit in person in March in New York City. So that would be a great.
I want to speak on that. If you can get me a speaker, I'll do it.
All right. Well, so tell me. So how are you educated on AI enough to speak on it? But I want you to think about the attorney who's like overwhelmed with how to use AI themselves, but how to integrate it to position themselves and actually know what the hell they're talking about. Besides, I guess, watch all Lawline courses and stuff like that. But is that the answer only? But what have you done?
Yeah. So let's talk. I'll answer this in a couple of ways. So number one, I am using AI regularly. But I'm not using ChatGPT for any, confidential information, any of my law firm stuff. It's mostly like, hey, give me an outline for a blog post about X, Y, and Z, and then I'll take the outline and I'll draft, I'll draft something for it. So that's just like the high level marketing stuff, high level operational stuff that I'm using ChatGPT itself for. On the other end of things, on the legal specific stuff, I am signed up for LexisNexis's AI product, which is great. And what I use it for is high level research. So for example's sake, I can put in a prompt like, what are the implications of a reseller agreement saying X, Y, and Z instead of A, B, and C? And within 35 seconds, it'll come up with several cases. It'll give me a full breakdown. It'll give me the concerns within. And then, of course, you click into the cases and make sure it says what it's saying, because AI still hallucinates a ton. I believe that it is giving people a superpower, and it is assisting specifically solo and boutique firms like myself, like my firm, in just being more streamlined, or being more educated, being more clear of helping our clients and coming up with more value adds, right? So I can come up with this legal research for my client, and I don't have to necessarily outsource it to one of my contractors. I can do this internally and then do my own research, and it'll take me half the time, right? So I think it's an excellent tool, and I think that those who do not adopt AI usage within their firms and their legal practice, and when I say that, I mean that don't use ChatGPT, use closed model only. Don't add any confidential information. Don't put anything that you don't want out there, because most of these AI models are still training their models using the information that you're inputting, right? So I have a pretty good understanding of it. But use it and improve upon the efficiencies of yours.
Okay, give me 3 steps that somebody who's basic proficiency but says, okay, I know this is the future. I want to start representing clients.
Yeah.
What are the next 3 things I should do?
So I think you should reach out to one of the legal specific AI companies and get a demo of the product. That's first and foremost. Take a demo of the product.
Like LexisNexis, is that what you mean?
Lexis, Westlaw, Co-Counsel. There's
out of curiosity, what is, just ballpark, what does that LexisNexis product cost?
I think it's per seat. It's it could be $300 to $500 a month, something along those lines. So it's per seat, but just speak to the sales team. I'm sure they'll come up with some way.
And the reason you like that product is it gives you a good answer, but it gives you access to the case law. So
exactly. It's closed universe, right? So AI works in, you have the open side of things where it's just scraping the entire internet. And then you have the closed universe models, which is usually built off of the open source AI models rather than, it's open versus closed, right? And it's only using the data that's fed to it, which is case law, which is
Got
statutory.
it. Okay.
Statutes and
That's
whatnot.
step one. Find a good product to help you find stuff. Step
Yeah.
two.
Step two is get an understanding of what you can, what you cannot do, right? So if you want to take a Lawline course about usage of AI or responsible usage of AI, that's there. There's lots of articles out there. I think it's important that you understand how it works, right? So if you can find an educational resource that explains to you in the simplest way possible. In fact, you can probably just ask ChatGPT to explain how it works, right? And it'll put it into simple terms, but understand how it works. And that way you can understand your limitations. Responsible AI usage is important. Don't add confidential information. Don't put anything that you wouldn't want out there. You don't put anything, like, understand how the models work and how the models are fed and how things are kind of generated using large language model generative AI solutions.
Okay.
And just, just get an understanding of how it works. And number three, start experimenting, right? Like, really, it's as simple as that. So when I say start experimenting, sign up for a ChatGPT account or a Google Gemini, which is being
What's the first?
Yeah.
Cool. Do all that. So, okay, now I want to represent a client. What do you think is the first, the baby thing I should say I can help with? The easiest thing to help with representing a client in? Does that make sense?
Meaning, like, what kind of prompt to use AI for?
No. Like, I'm thinking I know a lot of my clients are going to be using AI.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to add that to my practice.
Mm-hmm.
You do that now, correct? Like
Yeah.
And did you have to? Was there more to it, or you just you fixed? Okay, here's one area I'm going to learn enough about that.
Yeah.
And cool. And I assume there's some learning on the job too, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You get a client who needs help, you do it. Cool.
You have to play with it.
Right.
You have to play with it and understand it, and
So
disclose what you have to, of course.
Here's the question I had for you, and it's a good segue to this. You're going to give us some advice
Sure.
to law. And this is not as our attorney. This is as a customer and
Sure.
somebody who just said exactly what my mission is with the AI learning assistant. So we've launched the AI learning assistant in the past year, and it's done well, but it hasn't had the traction that what is my dream 100%, but obviously not even 50%, 30%, but it's much lower than I would want. Like, to some degree, you could say we're not promoting enough, we're not putting it out there, or there's a behavior. People have a trained behavior when they go to CLE, they just go to do that. But essentially, it does a very similar thing, but not exactly, because it doesn't have case law. You can ask it any question, and it could be improved, I'm sure, just like anything. You can ask a course any question, or you can ask a catalog any question that has all 2,000 courses. It will not, if you're in a course, it will not only tell you the answer, it will give you links to the points in the video where it got the answer from. It's not as authoritative as a case law, but at least it's showing you, if you're doubting what it says, here's where it's from. Now, my question to you is, as a power user of Lawline, what would you, there's two ways to ask this. What are pain points that would make this more attractive? Pain points that you are having that Lex just is not solving, or any of these other things where this product you would actually use if you actually knew it existed and it was easy to find and do all that. So I'll make that the question. So,
yeah, I mean, I think the functionality is there, right? Like, and I see what you're trying to do with the functionality. I think, it's hard to press people's desires to learn. And I mean, I think that's kind of the subject matter of this. It's hard to press people's desires to learn, but when you have unfettered access.
Explain that.
Yeah, I mean, like, you mentioned earlier during this call or during this interview that, it's rare for somebody to want to take a CLE without having to take a CLE, like the credit requirements and whatnot, right?
That's the impression out there. I don't believe that's the actual reality.
Okay, so I think that you essentially, with this AI assistant, you essentially have a transcript, and you can utilize this tool to kind of pick a very specific portion of the transcript, or a specific portion of what this person is taught, and they're like, for all intents and purposes, they are a subject matter focused person. Like, they really understand this on the subject matter, and you have the ability to kind of pick out of.
But just to reaffirm, because I don't want you to try to solve our
sure,
product, because that's if that's too hard. I'm just saying, and the answer could be nothing comes to mind. Is there pain points that the products that you currently have don't solve with just-in-time learning for you? That my mission is to give you just-in-time learning so you don't have to watch a full 1 hour course online. That if you have a specific question and on one of our learning paths for AI, or on the 75 courses for AI, or on one specific courses, you can just get to that answer right away and go to that point in the video. And then you can go to LexisNexis, then you can watch the full course. That is the mission, not, and like, and I don't know if that pain point exists with you, because maybe it's all solved.
Yeah, I don't think it does at this point, right? I think I have what I need right now, but then that might change. And I think, I don't think it's top of mind for me, because I know where to go if I need a specific answer to something.
Totally.
Or, so it's, I think I don't think I have that pain point right now.
No, but that's super helpful to understand. And I'm not surprised to hear that, because, and that's the thing with ChatGPT too. People don't know what to prompt. Like, I don't know, you put it on a prompt. What I don't have a pain point. I don't know what to tell you. Cool. So I'm gonna first of all, this was unbelievable in the amount of information that you shared, the value that you provided, the insights that you got. I am so energized, like on things that I can even kind of think about differently. And so I just wanted, just because it's been interesting. And again, the answer could be nothing comes to mind.
Sure.
As a salesperson, you learn to always ask questions, right? Do you have questions for me about Lawline, about what I've been doing this for a long time, but where I see things going? Happy to answer. And if not, happy to thank you, and we'll continue hopefully in a later date.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, David, I reached out to you initially because I just admired you, right? I admired what you did. I admired, like, it just so happened that you also went to New York Law School. And honestly, that was my in. When I reached out to you, I was like, oh, we went to the same school, so let me just have this conversation with you. So I'd love to hear about your thought processes, what you want Lawline to look like in, maybe 3 years. And I'm not asking for any trade secrets or, your ultimate business plan, but you're clearly helping thousands and thousands of lawyers and professionals on a regular basis. What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to be moving forward?
And I appreciate this, because I love getting asked that question on the spot, because it's the same way when you teach a course, right? Because you you're recording it. You can't like, well, let me think about that. But it comes to mind pretty quickly. And so there's two things I think about when I think of the future of Lawline. The first thing is I think about 100-year business.
Sure.
I think about PLI.
I love that.
PLI has been around for 90 years, right? So there is precedent that legal education, even before it was mandatory, right? You can be around there's a need for 100 years. As long as there's lawyers, as long as there's a government, as long as there's cases, there will be a need for lawyers to keep learning. And you are the perfect example of that, because you didn't have mandatory education. You did it because you wanted to learn. So I always think about that. And when I do that, even though I'm guilty of being stressed out all the time, it helps me not get caught up in, oh my God, we spent too much money on this, or that was wrong, or this failed, or this didn't work, because that happens all the time. Even though I'm not perfect. I do that all the time. But I keep reminding myself, this company's going to outlive me. It's going to outlive everybody living here today, everybody in here, because it's bigger than us, the impact. So that's one. The second thing, interrelated, but more related to the next 3 years, I think about the future of law. And I think about how can we prepare attorneys for the future of law. And it's more relevant now than it's ever been in the 17 years that I've been doing Lawline. How AI and technology is going to completely shift the landscape, and it already is. Jack just did his keynote at Clio, and I saw a lot of people posting about it. He's, and when Jack says it, now it's real, right? But what did he say? He shared, and rightfully so, though. All the credit, all the props to what he's done with Clio and what they've done in the industry. But what he said, two things that sort of stood out to me was there was a data point. I'm not sure where it came from, but AI is one of the first times where lawyers and law firms are, what's the word? Transitioning or doing, the word I'm missing, are adopting to AI more than traditional corporate. I think the data was something like 79% of law firms are trying to integrate or integrating in some form versus 70% of corporate. Don't quote me on that, but it was something to the degree law is actually moving faster than it's ever have. Second, and this is something that I'm passionate about too, and I think there's a need, and maybe you are not passionate about, or maybe you are because you're forward thinking. He says AI will be what kills the billable hour, because it saves time. It makes things more efficient.
That's how I run my firm.
Totally. And so he shared that. And so I see what we do and I see who we are. That is our mission. And that is why in less than 1 year, we decided to focus on AI content, and we've created 75 courses. And we're just getting started at what we do there. And it's where we're leading on the forefront. So thank you for letting me articulate that in a way that I don't think I have publicly in a long time. And so maybe I'll even take that clip of me talking and use that somewhere else. But
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. With that said, let me give the reality of some of the challenges.
Of course.
CLE is a very fragmented, competitive business that it's very dispersed, and we've been doing this for a while, but we innovate a lot. We add a lot of value to our product. We more than most, and we put a lot of time and energy into it. And sometimes it's really hard for that value to really be registered in the way that we think it should, whether it's higher price point, more sales, better retention. And I don't think it's not because it's maybe partly sometimes we do things that don't work and we move on, but sometimes it's just like lawyers, everyone, people are busy. They just need to get their stuff done. And so what I think about, and the other area that we've recently launched into, when we think about the future of law, we think about what's the future of CLE and accreditation, and where we've seen some trend, and ABA was ahead of the curve with this, and we're now doing our fastest growing B2B business right now. We're doing accreditation services for law firms.
Okay.
But we're not but when I do something, I'm similar to you. We're not just doing the old school, like, give me the paper, we'll do it. We've built an entire platform where they do it all online through us. And then we service them through there. They can see the credits, they can do the reporting. And if they want, which is the ideal, depending on the size firm and what they already have, the biggest turnkey solution is they can just host that on Lawline and do it all, and essentially have their own CLE platform for internal use. So we see a lot of opportunity to better serve CLE departments, especially at large firms, at AmLaw 100, 200, because usually they have a huge PD team, and then they have like 3 people, maybe 4, just on the CLE, who are with 500 hours of courses, 1,000 attorneys. It's just overwhelming. So we see a lot of opportunity to help their pain there, and we are doing that. But yeah, I think because of me, we probably also are guilty of working on too many things at the same time. Always. Because
sometimes you got to see what works.
I'm like a kid in a candy store, and I'll leave you on this. Our motto is hit singles, not home runs.
I love it.
Because home runs are harder to find. You can't really see through the trees of the motto. Singles, you can usually do in a 6 to 8 week cycle, an agile cycle. We do things in 6-week cycles here. You can see if it works, and if it doesn't, you can move on. And I think about the Jeff Bezos philosophy, where he actually talked about this. It's like, it's about experimentation. And then the thing about experiments versus baseball, when you singles, doubles, triples, home runs, it's a finite number. You can only get a home run. You can only score 4. The great things about the singles in business, you can score 1,000. You can score 10,000 if you hit the right thing. So if you keep trying to hit singles, you can get there.
It's compounding. Like, and I think about that all the time, that work compounds. Like, whatever work I'm putting in today, whether it's a single or a double, it'll compound into more 3-6 months from now. And I think about that all the time. I think it's very important. It's also something that is an important lesson in business that I've learned as well.
Well, Shahed, this has been amazing. My litmus test, hopefully it will pay off. If we enjoyed ourselves and we got something out of it, other people will too. If by the end we were drained and we were just talking about whatever, and thank God this is over, and that's how it is. So hopefully
I'm energized. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Let's take on the world together. If
Yeah.
if you're listening, you want to join us, reach out to us on LinkedIn, and we will join you in that crusade to help prepare attorneys and companies for the future of law. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.